Hello, everybody. Okay, so where we left off last time, we definitely were at this screen right here where we just created the character as a little bit more of an idea of why we did what we did for our sorceress or sorcerer. Charisma 18, once again, primary stat. Every save that the monsters must make is based off of that. Plus is DC 10 plus spell level plus this and this plus, so that if you think about that right now, my save is at, for a zero level spell, is DC 16 and DC 17, right? Okay, so we're going to go back to the other feat, spell penetration. Keep in mind, if a monster or an enemy has spell resistance, you have to beat that. So at this level, if a monster has spell resistance, say 5, well, it's going to be a roll off. You add my caster level of 1, you add my caster, then you add a +2 to that caster level check. Alright. So if it's a 5, I get it on a d20 roll of 3 or less. If it's a 10, which is a pretty high one for this area, max is 12 for the first chapter, then I would have to roll 9 at this level. When we get out there, though, it'll be 3 plus 2, right? Just for starting. But anyways, so now why do I build the build like this versus and take those negative ones to strength, dex, and wisdom? It's pretty simple, really. Constitution not only gives me 7 health, but it also gives me a +3 without even having to put skill points for a +7. You need to pass concentration checks in combat if an enemy is close. Also, long term, casting defensively, don't even need to. If you have 28 levels, you can cast every spell in the game. If you have a decent, if you can meet, if your skill level is 28, you can cast every spell in the game in the long term while you're casting defensively. So if you think about that without combat casting, it's 15 base DC -4 plus the spell level. And the -4 is for enemies up close. If you have combat casting, you don't need that. But the default reason, of course, is it's going to be DC 10 plus spell level. It's confusing, but it gets simple later on. Alright. So, now that we did that, we're also going to, since we did a quick rehash of why I picked what I picked in intelligence, I don't know about you. I'd rather have concentration, spellcraft up to 40 in the long run for +8 to resist any spell, plus my, basically spellcraft. Main reason isn't, there may be other advanced features, but if you're an evocation wizard, you don't really need to deal with it too much. You just need to blast the people. Don't need dexterity, because even if my AC was a 14, it really wouldn't matter much anyways once we get out to the chapter. It's not a lot. It's not. You would have to have, like, I would say full plus armor, full plate armor, which is not for this class or this build, to hardly ever get hit. You'll see what I mean later, but yeah. It looks good on paper to have a higher dexterity, because why not? Well, I can give you a why not. At 9th level, the minimum damage I do with 5 magic missiles is 10. That's what a crossbow is going to give you without a crit. And if it's a crit, 20. But either way, that's still a possibility. That's if you hit. And at the lowest base attack bonus in the game, not really going to be good. And in higher difficulties, you provoke attacks of opportunity. So that's why, anyways, moving forward. Now I'm going to show you how I, in my experience, build the action bar. Now they kind of just jack you up, and it's like a ton of this don't make sense at all. So anyways, so we're gonna show you how I do this. and I recommend it for anybody. See, I can tell you as a guy who played most of the fighter types in this game that you're probably only gonna ever need one quick bar, maybe it goes into a second one. Not so. You got to keep yourself organized to be a spellcaster, especially in evocation wishes. But this is what I'd like to do, and if you're following this later on when you have a higher sorcerer build, that's okay. You can mix and match it. But here's how I do it, right? So for my main bar, because I don't have much of AOE yet, I go single target Ray of Frost, single target magic missile, right? And now that we have that, we'll get rid of this. So now this is the way I do it. It helps me to remember. AOE is going to go right here. So for this one, you could pick between this, but you'll probably replace it later on. But here's a good one that's almost always good: Flare. Now, granted, it's not an AOE, but you'll see what I mean later. So a lot of people, it's like they'll follow a build and they'll follow the spells and they'll lose track, right? For an evocation especially. Now, like I said, how you organize it, it's going to be vary between what you're doing as a spellcaster. But like I said, single target, AOE, utility, right? You want to know why utility? Very simple. They'll eventually get up and close to you. So, well, we can do this right now. Of course, this goes away at 5 hit die or less, which happens fairly quickly in this game. Like I would say, docks. It's probably you'll probably find some that are you'll find like the street enemies, and we'll get into that when time comes. All right, but did you also notice the defensive spell magic armor for earlier? Like I said, it isn't a lot, but we'll get dexterity gear later on. And that dexterity is to be weighed with these +4 stats. Okay. So, here's another thing I like to do. I also like to put my familiar here, especially important if if you want to save spells by using Pixie, which is a good option, worthwhile thinking about later. Also, here's another one that should go on right away. A lot of people don't know about this, and right, like say, defensive casting mode, right? See what I mean? Ooh, what they don't tell you is that -4 gets added to it. But if you can pass this DC, hence why we pick concentration mostly for the long run, but to continue casting when the heat is on. All right, so that's how I do it. To each their own. So if you get your bar right. Anyways, so now we're gonna play, and keep in mind that my talking will go up and down. I'm only gonna talk for fair use, mostly, and when things are explained. I'm gonna show you guys the guide I use to learn how to do things, right? So here's another thing or so that's always important, at least for the first chapter for sure, to get some experience. That torch. Now, if you're playing a fighter build, you can put this on one of your dual wields layout. You can put it on with your dual May hand in this, and this later on will, of course, be able to be held in one hand. But we'll see why in a minute, because it's like I always tell you. So no matter what stat you put your stats in, you're probably going to find that the most valuable item is a staff. Moving forward.
Finally, you're up. My name's Paul.
Alright, y'all can do this on your own. I'm not here to tell you the story, but I will give you a guide that also provides a walkthrough. It's one of my favorites. And if you can find one that's more your style, to each their own. So, anyways, moving forward. Like I said, if I bounce back between talking, here's another tip: press the eye icon, and you're going to be, as a spellcaster, you're going to be using that button a lot. Just for the record, moving forward. But before we even go out of our room, we need to get our bar set up for the rest of our levels, right? Anyways, here's another one or so. So just something I do.
Hey there.
I put my healing potion here that I'm going to use, and I put my buff here, as you'll see later. Moving forward.
I saw you talking. Okay then. Well,
Do that if you are just playing the game the first time, but no need for this guide. Like I said, I'm not here to do a walkthrough. I'm here to show you reality and how it plays out with this build. In real time. I don't hide nothing. So always here you want to save, and you're going to see the annoying reason why. And yeah, that's very fun, I can't lie. There's a reason Appraise gets a lot of flack in this game. Anyways, there is something good here. Watch closely, this is important. Don't press this if you're not ready, otherwise you're going to blunder and have to restart your entire save to hear all that crap again. Okay, so kind of like I did with accidentally hitting the screen. So we're going to say no. When you see this with him,
This might be a good time to teach you.
anyways, blunder again, my bad. Real time, right? Good and bad. I'm not here to say I'm a professional gamer. I almost was in WoW, but alright, press no, okay? Now what I generally do, is stop here, stop there without activating his stuff. This will save you a lot of time too.
it's about time.
Always good to be 110% certain. This right here also, very underrated robes. And sure, it's not armor bonus. It's not an armor bonus, but most spellcasters cast fire. That's 15 damage off. Can't beat it, people. Pretty great, even though it's not for non-armed. And don't worry, there's also there'll be better armor later after this chapter, but I always recommend sticking with this one because concentration, unless it's epic, unless you're hacking for epic gloves of concentration. Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna try to get this first floor done. Ooh. Okay, as you can see. Anyways, we'll have to stop here. I hope you found this informative. Stay safe, and this is the way to make a build, and then we're gonna get into more reality later. Peace.